for this university, for the alumni, fans, and donors as we achieve success in the classroom, in the competitive arena, and in the community.
It's about to get really fun.
We're looking for dudes that will stand up. Well, Coach, let me tell you today, I'm here and I'm ready to stand up. And I challenge you, Ragin Cajun Nation, to stand up with us. Stand up with us. Let's lock hand in hand and let's walk through the gates of Omaha.
Hey, I love y'all boys. Let's grind every day starting today. Let's do it. Y'all ready? Alert! Ready? Who's that team ready? Who's that team ready? Yes, sir.
I got one thing to say right here. Cajuns win!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ragin Review podcast. After a Cajuns win, it's a Ragin Review postgame. Nick, Jerry, and Josh back in the saddle with you. I know there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of bad. A lot of bad. We're going to work our way through it. But before we do that, I have a self-serving announcement. And you all just going to have to bear with me. Shout out to the Rainbow Mermaids. 4-2 victory over the Bells. Really played hard. The ladies kicked off the season. We're 1-0, and really that's all you can hope for is to go 1-0 every week. Jerry, I had to give a shout out to the girls before we get into football talk.
I'm trying to make a sign, but it's not working with my background.
Jeez.
So it says "Go Mermaids."
Go Mermaids! Didn't
Go
flash.
Mermaids! Congratulations.
Yeah,
Coach.
no, it was a good time. So anyway, had to give a shout out to the ladies, but Cajun Field was a very interesting place to be today. Oh, by the way, I had to make a shout out to Miguez. Miguez got married last night. Shout out to Matt, married, betrothed, all that other stuff. Congratulations to you all. Happy life ahead. You know, glad you guys made it work. And it sounds like the ceremony was very nice. Jerry was there. So shout out to Miguez, one of the founding members of what became Ragin Review. So it's probably appropriate to give him a holler. So good job, Matt. Caitlin, congratulations. Anyway, football. Sorry, slow start. A lot of interesting stuff. I mean, first half was, as Nick put it, one of the worst halves of Cajun football we've probably ever seen. Also, the lightning delay made things just annoying. Play calling was baffling. Defense was confusing. There were so many things that you could go. We're going to do a segment about game day atmosphere and game day concessions and all that other stuff and the students that we posted about during the game. We're going to wait after we talk about football to get to that. But just strictly on the field, I want to start there. Nick, you got to watch it on TV. You probably had a little bit of a view that we don't necessarily see in the stands. Tell me how bad, number one, the officiating was. And number two, what did you see on the line of scrimmage? Because from where I was sitting, it was ugly early on.
Josh, why are you trying to get me triggered about the officiating? We'll start talking about the play. The play was bad, and it was undisciplined. It was sloppy. I thought the play calling was bad, mostly on the offensive side of things. Was not impressed. I mean, we needed. I think we got the ball back. We forced a punt finally from Eastern Michigan. We get the ball back. We bring Woolridge in, and then we have 3 straight runs up the middle for no gain, and then we punt 3 and out. So we're not trying to manufacture anything. We're just that was frustrating. We were getting beat on both lines. I mean, our offensive and defensive lines were both getting completely dominated. But I think it started at the kickoff. Eastern Michigan looked like they wanted to be there. They wanted to prove something. They knew they were going to be underdogs, and they came in with a chip on their shoulder like they wanted to prove themselves. And I think you said it too, Josh, when we were texting during the game. We came out flat. We came out like we were just kind of going through the motions, not really coming out with any fire. So, we got our butts kicked that first half. There's no easy way to put it. Now, I will say the defense played better than I think we're giving him credit for, mostly in the secondary. But what Eastern Michigan did is what I was scared they would do, was this dink and dunk, pass for 5 yards, pass for 6 yards. And their receivers did exactly what they did against Eastern Kentucky last week. They get right to the first down marker, right past the first down marker, and they made the catch. There were very few catches that they dropped. If there was an issue, it was, I mean, obviously they had 5 turnovers. I think 3 of those were interceptions. But they were catching the ball. They were catching it in space. They were catching it along the sidelines, and we couldn't stop them. We had no answer for them. And that worried me last week watching their game film. And I think any team is going to have trouble with that when you have these teams that do these 5-6 yard passes. It's almost like they use it as a running game. So that worried me, and it really got me concerned because, like you said, we had a 1 hour delay for the weather, which I think ended up helping us because we needed to get our act together.
Oh, there's no question it helped us.
It helped us, but then we come out the locker room and I think it was 3rd and 20, we allow a touchdown. And I mean, he just floats the ball into the end zone. The guy makes a catch. We're done. So then I was really concerned going, okay, not only do we have to score 14, which we haven't scored all game, we have to score 14, and then we have to score more points to go ahead. It was not looking great at that point because they didn't show anything to me that gave me any confidence that we would do that. And then, of course, we score 40 some odd points in the second half and just completely run away with it. But to answer your question, Josh, yes, the play calling, I thought on the offensive side was lackadaisical. I thought the way we came out was lackadaisical. The officiating, I've never, and Josh, look, I give them crap. I do. And I gave them crap about the 2 roughing the passer, which granted, if you're going by the rule book, I guess if you touch a guy after he throws the ball, yeah, it's whatever. Like,
that was terrible.
Not even talking about those. You're talking about players that are downfield running on a jump ball, and they're both going for it, and you're going to call us for pass interference. And then you got clearly there's nothing happening. The guy is under center. He's calling the play. 3 guys jump. Obviously, there's something happening on the other side of the ball that's causing them to jump. It happened twice. That doesn't just happen. You don't just have a whole line jump at the same time if nobody is giving disconcerting signals from the other side of the line of scrimmage. And they're looking around like, oh, no big deal. And Dez got in his face. You don't see Dez get fired up. Then you have that awful non-call later in the game where the guy got pushed out of bounds, came back in first to touch it, illegal touching. That led to a touchdown.
Are you talking about the play on Guerra when he got shoved out? Dude is literally standing on the sideline and then caught the ball for like 25 yards. Is that what you're talking about?
That is that play. Nothing called. And that led to the 3rd touchdown that they scored. So, and then getting grabbed, our wide receiver getting grabbed and tugged. No, nothing called. No, we're good. That is the worst officiating crew I have ever seen in a college football game at Cajun Field, maybe anywhere. And again, I know I give them crap. I know I give officials crap, and I like to, I'm pulling for the home team. I'm always going to say that the officials are crap, but this was really like over the top terrible. When you have almost 200 yards in penalties between both teams, something's wrong. You cannot make me believe that both teams are so undisciplined that there are 200 penalty yards in a game. And oh, by the way, some of them were refused. So there were more than that. Again, I'm getting all fired up. I'm going to shut up now about it. But to get back to the play, yes, I agree. First half was terrible. Second half, that's the team. I think the second half is the team that we expected us to come out first quarter against Southeastern. I think that's the team that we expected to see, and we saw them. I don't know. That was
and look, crazy. We'll break it down as we go through the show, but yeah, we'll break it down more and we'll get more into it. But you gotta admit, I mean, we even talked about on last post game. We were impressed by the fact that we only had 4 penalties against Southeastern, and we talked about the ability to be disciplined as a young team. This was the total opposite. And did we have a couple of penalties that were bad? Yeah, sure we did. But some of these pass interference calls, I have never seen our secondary lose their minds like they did. And I'm telling you, I was sitting close enough to some of the calls that you sit there and you go, that's literally a 50-50 ball. Are you going to let him play football? You're just going to let him, can I not touch? How many times were our receivers, Johnny Lumpkin got pulled down by his jersey on one of the pass attempts that he just looked at him? I mean, it was hard not to think that the fix was in. And I know I kind of joke about that a lot, but there were plenty of calls that didn't feel both ways. And Jerry, I'll let you go, but I got to say this. The Cajuns looked like a team in the first half that came out with an attitude of we've won 14 in a row and we're supposed to win. That's what they look like. You know, you put Eastern Michigan on the scoreboard and you think, oh, we're supposed to win. Let me tell you, Eastern Michigan they're probably a borderline G5. They're probably in the 60, 70 range as far as rankings might go. But they can play. They got some guys that can play. Their offense was pretty impressive, especially early. And I was impressed. Honestly, their defensive line controlled the game for the first 2 quarters. I mean, we did nothing in the first half. But I'm not going to get into it. Jerry, go ahead and make your comment.
I mean, first half was it's obviously as a tale of two halves tonight. I mean, the first half, I mean, we were undisciplined. We looked unprepared. We looked just uninterested. Everything like we just didn't want to be there. It almost felt like we just, like you said, we could just take the field because we have a 14-game win streak and they're Eastern Michigan and we're Louisiana and they're an afterthought. They're in the MAC and all of these crazy perceptions of just showing up, winning by showing up. And one thing I've learned tonight after the first half is it doesn't matter who you play. You can't win by just showing up. We don't really have, we're a good football team, but at the same time, I mean, we've pulled a few close ones even in this streak. So I thought we were out-coached in the first half. I thought we were out-schemed in the first half. I thought Eastern Michigan, I mean, they dominated the time of possession at least in the first half through maybe right before the lightning delay, really. And meanwhile, Louisiana, our offense couldn't really move the ball. We had a few 3-and-outs to start the game. So just everything that could have gone wrong in the first half did, not because of the way, I guess it's not because of the way that we played, but also it's the way our Eastern Michigan played against us. They converted. They just looked like they were a full level above us at the time. And, I don't know what it is, but maybe at times like these, maybe the lightning delay was a divine intervention, because the second we took the field, yes, they scored that go-ahead touchdown before halftime. But after that 3-minute halftime, I mean, in the second half, we looked like the team that we all have known to love or grown to love. A team that grinds every play, that sniffs the ball like crazy. I mean, defensively, we forced 5 turnovers in the second half alone, scored 49 points. I mean, that's insane. You outscore a team 49-7 in the second half. You scored 21 points in the third quarter, 28 in the fourth quarter. And I mean, it was just something that nothing could go wrong in spite of the officiating. And I know we've talked about the officials tonight. They were all over the place. I thought in the second half, though, I thought some of those penalties on Eastern Michigan, it felt like they were trying to kind of pull the reins back a little bit on the calls. But in spite of all of that, it's amazing that so much happened tonight, and yet we're talking about a 28-point victory, right? 28-point victory, 49-21. I mean, look, we've won 15 straight. We go on the road to Rice next week against a team that I saw they put a beat down on McNeese, but you're playing an unfamiliar team. You're playing an unfamiliar team. But I'm just happy that we got the win tonight, and I'm happy at the fact that we opened up the playbook in the second half. How many touchdowns did we score on the long pass? I mean, we extended so many drives on the long pass, and we let Ben and Chandler just air it out. We haven't seen that in so long, and both quarterbacks played well, by the way. Both of them played well. So
I really did.
I know we talk about the 2-quarterback system. I know Ben is on sort of a play chart, a time chart where he goes in every few drives. Ben looked fantastic, just like Chandler. I mean, if you look at his stats, Ben actually had better stats. Ben was actually, I'll give you the stats right now. Ben Woolridge, 12 for 13, 169 yards, 2 TDs, no interceptions. Chandler was 10 for 20, 141 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. So for both quarterbacks combined, 22 for 33, 310 yards, and 310 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. It's a good day at the office for the quarterbacks.
Yeah, a little bit.
But let's talk about also, to add on top of that, while you're talking about stats, we'll talk about the defensive line and how I wasn't impressed in the first half of the ball game. But defensive line, they only allowed 36 yards of rushing for Eastern Michigan. As long and as tedious as that first half seemed, because they dominated the time of possession, you would have thought they ran it down our throats. 36 yards for the entire game. Unbelievable.
Before we get too far, I want to do some house cleaning stuff. Here's the thing, guys. If you're new to the post game, hit the subscribe button. We need you to subscribe. We need to spread the show, and we have this thing that we say we spread Cajun across the nation, push the brand across the land. That's kind of our deal. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, tell all your friends, come join us. It's a little post game after party. We treat it like a tailgate. We're just trying to have a little fun, talk about the game. But also, I want to say happy birthday to Coach Robe. I turned my hat backwards because for two reasons. I got the 36 on the cap to our main man, but also for Neil. I do it for Neil. I know he really enjoys that hat backward thing, so we do that. But we're going to stick to our same structure as we did last week. First thing we're going to start with, and then after we kind of set the table, we'll take some calls. What did you guys learn? What did you guys learn about the football team tonight? Ben, Nick, we'll start with you. I thought Ben was impressive. Maybe we start with quarterbacks. I don't know. What did you learn? What did you learn tonight?
Well, I learned that when we give them the opportunity to throw it downfield, that we have the tools to make the plays. I learned there were a couple of I don't know that they're quite. I mean, they're there. Yeah, obviously we scored 49 points and a half, but there were a couple of passes that Chandler threw tonight that were straight in the turf. And that kind of concerned me a little bit. That was out of character. And Ben's one incompletion was a little out there. But I think on Chandler's side, throwing it in the dirt a couple times really concerned me a little bit. I'm not worried. I'm not pushing the panic button. Obviously, I mean, it was one game and it was a couple of passes. But that was just something that I put a little star by to see how that progresses through the season. But I learned that we have the tools when we execute at our the level that we expect. We have the tools to run the table on the league. Now, will that happen? Probably not. I mean, we're going to have halves and quarters and moments like we did today. But when we're putting it all together, who's going to stop us, man? I mean, that was impressive when they finally opened the playbook, let our quarterbacks just sling it. That was scary good. Our defense, again, and I know you said quarterbacks first, but I'm going to go into the defense. We held. No,
it didn't have to be a quarterback thing. It was just something that I noticed everybody was commenting on, and obviously everybody was talking about a quarterback. But I just want to know what you guys learned. That's the number one thing.
And the second thing I learned is our defense. And I know we were a little let down by our defensive line last week, but our defense as a whole, when you consider we allowed 7 points last week to Southeastern, and we allowed 21 points to, and really it should have been 14 because that last touchdown should have never happened due to the penalty, but whatever. 21 points to a team that scored 40 somewhat last week. That's a good sign. I'm a big picture guy.
Nick, you got to remember our best cornerback is not playing right now. We're down 3 defensive linemen and a defensive end right now.
Exactly.
I mean, we still got young guys flying around, and I like Osai, or however you say his name, Ossai. He had a tough night tonight. He's learning on the job. So we got a long way to go, but we're not even at full strength right now. And I felt like our secondary really kept things in. Honestly, it's 7-0, halfway through the second quarter. You got to give the defensive secondary changed the game tonight. And I've always said that we're going to lean on them to carry and anchor the defense. And ultimately they will be the anchor of the football team.
Yep. And Osai, speaking of Osai, 7 total tackles tonight. He had 4 solo tackles, 9 total. And then I liked what I saw to Weiser. Weiser had a game. He made some plays tonight.
I liked him. I will say this, and I told Jerry this, and I think he looked at me like an old man. He was like, "What?" After he sacked the guy, he turned around and hit check out the back of my name. Look, man, I'm not going to be one of these guys, get off my lawn, but you didn't see a ton of that under Billy. You pointed this. It's Louisiana, buddy. So, Mr. Weiser, I think you're a fantastic player. Just if you're listening, point to the front. That's just me being a boomer and hollering at clouds. Sorry.
And the last thing I'm going to say is I learned that the peanut punch is still a thing, and we are doing that to perfection. So even though we had lots to criticize tonight, I think we had a lot of positives too, and that was one of them.
100%. And we can kind of break down our "what did we learn" segment into the first half versus the second half. Like Jerry said, it was a tale of two halves. Jerry, let's talk it like let's treat it like that. What did you learn in the first half about the team?
The offensive line wasn't aggressive enough. They weren't opening holes for our runners to run through.
That's
I mean,
putting it
even
nicely.
Chris Smith, somebody who we know can break long runs, could barely get to the line of scrimmage before getting contact. And I think that was that set a really bad precedence that scared me really, because if you can't open up a run game against, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to disrespect Eastern Michigan in any kind of way, but we've run against better teams than that, or better defensive fronts than that. And Eastern Michigan, they dominated the line of scrimmage defensively against our rushing attack. I think the run game got better as the game went on because we made some adjustments. I thought that we really wore them down. I think that southern humidity that we all know and love, I think you can tell on the field that kind of got to them a little bit, and it helped our run game. But I thought in the beginning we couldn't set a tempo because we really didn't open up a rushing attack. And that's kind of how our offense has always been built. It's always a balanced attack with both passing and running. We couldn't run the ball. And you have 3 running backs who are all well, you got 2 of them who are trying to still find an identity with the offense. You've got Chris Smith, who is already sort of the staple, and nobody could really get a run game going. Nobody could really get going as a whole. So I thought in the first half, I kind of put that a little bit on the offensive line because they weren't opening gaps to allow that. Another thing I found was, or another thing I learned was just the careless penalties in the first half by our secondary, like you had mentioned. I thought our secondary played a little bit more of the soft coverage, and it looked like Eastern Michigan was picking on our zones. And they were picking at our zone coverage and able to get open on these short passes. I mean, I remember, Josh, I was telling you in the first half, they're killing us with these, shallow
Little drag routes.
These little
crossing and drag routes. I mean, they were killing us.
We couldn't stop them, and they would get 10 to 15 yards off of them because we were playing soft coverage. And so I thought that was something that, was scary to watch, because that's how Eastern Michigan was able to move down the field and convert those little 3 or 4 yard plays. So that was concerning as well. And of course, we really didn't have much of a passing game. So that's kind of what I learned in the first half. Are we going to the second half, or are we still?
We'll stick with it, make a quick round, and then we'll take calls. But I want to say this real quick. Andrew's asking about AJ Washington. Ashland is having eligibility problems. I don't know if he's going to be eligible for this semester. I have no idea. I don't know the full story, but I don't think he's going to be on the field for us. But we'll check back, because I think AJ is a big part of our secondary. I really liked what I saw out of Anderson. I really liked what I saw out of McDaniel tonight. I think those guys are physical, big, very good corners. Again, I think that they impacted the game. You saw Brandon Bishop make a big play. Our secondary is very, very good. Also, back to your comment about we couldn't get a rushing game going, and Kyle made the comment, but they were playing 8 and 9 guys in the box. They were basically saying, make your young quarterback beat us. And I thought, first of all, I thought that EMU had a great game plan for what we wanted to do. Now, I'll give credit to the guys in the second half. They made a nice adjustment. We opened it up, and like you guys said, we threw it over the top, and we hurt them. But there was an injury on the defensive line, and I don't remember the guy's name or his number, but once he went down, there was a humongous difference with how much the offensive line, the Cajun offensive line, got a push. So once we started to soften them, and then they had that defensive line injury, I think things changed a lot. But they were crowding our guys. They really were. They had a lot of guys close to the line of scrimmage, and they dared us to beat them over the top. Finally, we did it. I see we're starting to see an attendance of 15,352. There's absolutely no way we had 15,000 people in that stadium. There's absolutely no way. Maybe that was after the lightning delay. There's absolutely no way it was 15,000. Anyway, we'll get back to that, but I'll say what I learned. I learned that Coach O is a jerk, first of all. So I got big time by Coach O.
I do want to hear the story, because you didn't answer when you said you got big time, you didn't answer what happened. So I'm interested.
Yeah. So you know me. I'm a super nice guy. I never get in anybody's way. I was coming back from the bathroom. I was walking back to my group or whatever, and Coach O and his friend were walking by, and he had a Cajun shirt on. So I passed right by him, and I said, "You look good in those colors, Coach O," or yeah, something like, "You look good in those. You look good in red and white," or something to that effect. And I stuck my hand out, and he just looked past me. It's like, well, shit. I didn't feel like that was a disrespectful comment. but he just walked right on by.
You know
Anyway,
what-
and everybody saw me get
You know
Anyway, and everybody saw me get big time, so it wasn't great.
You know what's even funnier about that? So my big brother, so I've got two brothers. A lot of people know Coach Doe. He's my middle brother, but I do have an older brother. He works the first down marker at the game. And I get all these texts right after halftime of him going over and getting love from O on like the NFL Network. And I'm like, my brother doesn't know who this dude is. Like O's probably and O just approached him, gave him a big hug, like high five. They're talking. And so when you said you got big time, I'm like, and how did my brother not get big time? I don't know. You must have said something else, man, because that can't be it.
I do have a way, but he totally big time me. So Coach O's a jerk. I learned that today. We have serious problems on the left side of the offensive line. And I think it starts at center. And look, I like Hudson. I got no issue with the kid. He's been here a long time, love his family. And we know Coach Hud. I mean, like Hudson, I get it. He's part of the family. He's cerebral. He knows what to do. The offense is in his hands. He knows. I mean, he makes the calls. He's good at what he does. I don't know if physically he can hold up against good nose tackles because he got his ass kicked tonight. He just did. I watched it. Left side of the line has got a long way to go. The right side of the line grew stronger as the game went on, and I felt like their injury, and we got to really track down that injury because I'm telling you, when that guy went down, things totally changed. But the right side of the line held their own. I want to see more out of Jack Harrington. I thought it was fine, but we got to have that one guy that sets the tone on the offensive line. Who's it going to be? Who's going to be the alpha male on that offensive line that really sets the tone? We need somebody that's going to push people around. We don't have that right now. I think Jax is probably our most talented guy on the line, and I want to see him step up and push people around. That's what you saw out of Max. That's what you saw out of Torrance. That's what you saw out of Big Rob and Dot and all these guys. There was always somebody willing to maul a defensive player. To this point, we played 8 quarters. I don't see it yet. So I've learned that the left side, especially of the offensive line, it's we got to get better. The defensive line.
I just on that one again. We did this against Eastern Michigan tonight, and Eastern Michigan's like a 5th place MAC West Division team. We got to go to Marshall. We got to play teams like that. Who we're going to talk about who they beat today. Everybody.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do a league segment after.
When you're saying we got to get better, we got to get a hell of a lot better to be able to compete with those guys.
Yeah, and we're going to take it a week by week, and I don't want to project too far ahead, but this league is good. It's even better than I thought it was going to be. I think it's even better than everybody thought it was going to be. I mean, it's good top to bottom. But anyway, so I learned that on the line, offensive line, obviously, I just said that we got work. Defensive line is nowhere near where I thought they'd be. That was a gigantic miss by me. Now, in my defense, we're down Kendall Wilkerson. Sonny's not all the way back. While Weiser was good, I thought he was undisciplined on a couple of times. He got pushed around. He lost contain a few times. The defensive ends, dude, I need Andre Jones to take a game over. And he hasn't done it just yet. I love him. I think he's our most talented defensive player as far as, off the defensive line. I mean, look, I think Zion Hill is the guy, right? But they're double teaming him. They know that he's the guy. So somebody else has got to come up and be athletic and take over. You saw he did have a big play in the third quarter that changed some momentum. So I need to see the defensive line really step up and be who they're supposed to be. The number one takeaway from this game is the mentality of the football team. I know we haven't. Whoa. Ghosts? Jerry, was that you? Anyway, we haven't played. So it's a work in progress, right? Watching the team come back from absolute dead, totally dead in the water, taught me a little bit about the character of this group. So that's important. And then the last thing was the secondary is who we thought they were. The secondary is exactly who I thought they were going to be. I mean, the picks took over the game. I mean, it totally changed the game, the picks. We finally started playing that push-up press coverage, and we made plays. We got the turnovers. But we made the quarterback for EMU, who was very accurate. He threw some good balls. We made him worry. We made him stutter. He got into a point in the game where he didn't want to throw the football. So there was coverage sacks in that game. Obviously, Jerry mentioned 3 picks, 2 more fumbles, 5 turnovers total. The defensive secondary really changed that game. Brandon Bishop was a star. Cam Podescalo. I mean, you guys know I love Cam Podescalo, but he's just a mean He's just a playmaker. He's a playmaker. And my boy Eric Garrett got beat over the top on a there was a single safety that had absolutely no help, and he was isolated. He got burnt. But it's really not even fair to say he got burnt. I mean, he was there step for step. The guy just made a good throw, and the receiver made the catch. So I'm not even going to say he got burnt, but that's the first time I've ever seen that happen. So I was shocked. But even with all of that, the secondary was the difference in the game. I guess we should go to let's do that. Let's take some calls, and then we'll go to second half after we get a couple of thoughts. JMV, you were one of the first to request. Let's get you on. Hold on a second there. Go ahead, JMV.
Yes, I have a comment and a question. My first comment is also wear my hat backwards for Neil. On a serious note,
only way to be.
On a serious note, do you guys think we now have a quarterback controversy? That would be my first question, and my second question would be, who do you guys think will start at Rice?
Jerry, do we have a quarterback controversy?
No, I don't. I think as long as the main thing is Ben went in when he was supposed to go in as far as the way it was scripted. The difference is Ben was able to get it done. I think Chandler's still the quarterback. I think he's going to be QB1. He was named QB1 going into Southeastern. And he did his job today the best way he could, which was enough in my opinion. So no, I don't think they have a quarterback controversy. I think Chandler's still QB1, and they'll put Ben in when they do, just like they did a few years ago with Levi and Andre. But if anything, I think it's good that both quarterbacks succeeded the way that they did. Again, they've combined for 5 touchdowns tonight. So yeah, I still think Chandler's QB1. I have no doubt. And I think the offense tonight moved pretty well with Chandler in the back and the behind center.
I think what Ben did really well was exploit matchups. How many times did he just put the ball up and let somebody? Don't forget about the ball that Chandler threw the back of the end zone to Jefferson. That was a dime, man. You got to be able to put the ball in those places where only your guy can catch it. Now, I know he was wide open, but imagine if somebody had tight coverage. That ball was where only his receiver could catch it, and that's what I was impressed about. Chandler, there was one particular play where Errol Rogers literally ran the wrong route. It was supposed to be a shallow out, and he ran a deep out, and Chandler threw the shallow out, and it looked like a horrible throw. I watched Errol come off the field, and I watched him get after him. So that's how I knew he ran the wrong route. So Chandler threw a couple balls that were not necessarily Chandler-esque when it comes to accuracy, but to the untrained eye, I could see how it looked like he made more poor throws than he actually did. Nick, do we have a controversy?
Nope, I don't think so. I think Chandler's still a guy. And you have to understand Chandler was also in for the majority of the first half when our play calling was atrocious. So you have to attribute some of his lack of accuracy to that as well. And like you said, routes that were run incorrectly. But no, I don't think we have a controversy. I think Chandler did what he had to do. Ben did what he had to do. Now, if we're 4 games into it and Chandler's still throwing balls into the ground and there's communication issues, then maybe we can talk about it. But no, I don't think we have an issue right now.
I agree that we had communication issues. JMV, thanks for the call. Seth, you're up, man. Go ahead and take it.
Oh, well, thanks. So I want to loop back to the second half. I mean, when's the last time we had a wide receiver duo like Stevens and Jefferson?
Maybe never. Maybe never.
I mean, it's insane. You know, those guys are difference makers. And then the second part is, I know I ran into Jerry in the concourse, but what about HUD as our cap director or fundraiser director? That man, you know, I ran into him, shook his hand. He loves it here. Great fundraiser. Bring him back some capacity.
It's an interesting thought, and I know it's been talked about on Ragin Cajuns, so you know, it might get some legs, but I mean, there's no doubt that he gets people to the stadium. You look at what it was today. This is what I'm saying. This 15,200 thing or whatever, that's not correct.
I have a hard time believing that.
That's not correct.
Because last week they announced 16,300 or something like that, and there were a lot less people in the stands than there were this week.
Just look at the tailgate. It was double. It wasn't 15,000. Whoever released that is doing the university a disservice. That's ridiculous.
I think it's a prank. I think somebody's pranking us. To be honest
Could
with you,
be.
there's no way it was only 15,000 a night.
I think somebody predicted on Swamp Notes a lower attendance, and we're getting a wrong number. That's what I think. Well, that's good that HUD was making the rounds, man. I mean, he's a man of the people. Say what you want about him. He gets people to the games. He gets them excited, gets them interested. I mean,
Look, here's the deal. HUD's a football coach,
right.
and that's what HUD wants to do. And we can talk about him being RCAF director. Would he even be offered the job? Probably not, because when you consider that they're part of the university foundation, that's a whole nother thing that we can dive into.
Yeah,
but HUD's a coach. HUD's he's a football coach, and that's what he wants to be doing. Would I love for him to be a part of this program in some way, shape, or form? 100,000,000,000% yes. But I just don't see it happening because of the fact that HUD, deep inside in his soul, is a football coach, and that's number one for him. So, yeah, I mean, if you get McCullough out at Acadiana and let him coach and be a fundraiser for us somehow, maybe that could happen. But I just don't see it happening. But it's a great thought. In my perfect world, HUD would be involved with our program somehow, getting people to the stadium.
I think it goes back to what Tony Robichaux did as a fundraiser outside of being a baseball coach. I mean, whenever he wasn't coaching, he was doing so many other things as a representative of the school. And, when I think of coaches that can fundraise, I mean, Robe's the first guy, which, by the way, happy heavenly birthday to Coach Robe today, right? Got to give Coach Robe a shout out up above. But yeah, he was by far the best fundraiser as a coach, and I thought HUD did a great job as well. As he told us in the interview the other day, he wanted to get the community involved as much as possible. But the thing about the RCAF, even though as a fan we would like that type of energy to come in, the art of fundraising is so different than what we understand as fans. There's so much more to it from a business perspective as far as raising money. And look, don't get me wrong, do I think HUD could do the job? Possibly. Do I think he could do the job based on the descriptions of the job and what the university would want him to do? I don't know, because again, it's a totally different realm of what we're thinking of as a coach. So anyway, yeah, I think I like the idea as a fan, but I just don't see it. But look, HUD was a fantastic was a fantastic coach when it came to getting fans excited, and look, he's a great sales. He can do a great sales pitch. There's no doubt. Fundraiser, I don't know. We'll see. But
I think that we spend way too much time trying to make things that are not complicated. Raising money is getting somebody to buy into you, and then once they buy into you, they buy into the product that you sell. HUD was fantastic at that. He was fantastic at reaching the blue collar man, which is what this community largely is made up of. Now, I don't want to divulge into a fundraising conversation. We'll be here all night. But I think that the reason why the idea is a good one and a valid one is because you don't need seasoned professionals to go ask people for money. We don't live in Atlanta. We don't live in Dallas. This is Lafayette. There are blue collar guys out there that make $2 million a year in the oil field. I know that because I used to sit next to them. Okay. You need to go out and engage the blue collar man. And HUD is very good at that. So one thing we do here way too much is we try to make things that are easy, complicated, because we want to seem smart. And that's my own opinion. Sylvester, your thoughts on the game today, sir? Sylvester going once.
What?
And twice. All right, we'll come back to you.
I'm sorry, I'm watching the App State game right now.
Not possible. They played like 4 hours ago.
I'm behind. Highlights, man. I'm watching the highlights.
I was watching the highlights.
What you got? Were you in the student section today?
Yes, sir. It was good today. I only person that got kicked out today, but it wasn't bad.
Only one. That's all right. We're getting better.
Yeah, we're getting better. We all got our chirps in today. It was fun.
That's good. Well, we saw the I don't know if it was event staff or cop or whatever. They were moving students that had moved after the lightning delay. They had moved over to the section next to the original student section, and they There's literally no players on the bench. There's no opposing fans anywhere near them, and they forced them to move back. And I shot the video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those folks are not going to come back.
Yeah, they were checking tickets, and we couldn't move over a section. The kids in the togas moved over from y'all left, and they kicked them back. They booted them back towards y'all right.
Yeah, I saw it.
Why did they do that? Why?
Because we hate our fans. That's why, Jerry.
Beats me. Yeah.
Listen, in all seriousness, we're trying to get to the bottom of what the hell's going on with the fines and why are we moving students around and kicking them out. And there was a point where we passed by the concessions in the south end zone, and there was a mass exodus of students on the southwest side. So southeast side. We're trying to figure out what the heck's going on, but you can't tell students that we really want you to be at our game and then throw them out for I don't know what. Jerry and I were talking about this. Look, if you guys are doing things like, and not you, Sylvester, you're good. You're with us, so you're one of us. If you guys are doing, if those guys are doing things like throwing things or are trying to physically harm a player or using racial slurs, then get the hell out of here. We don't want to have anything to do with that. But if you're just saying like your mama's ugly and stuff like that, like I'm all the way in on that. We used to get people to try to fight us. Alfred Morris tried to fight me in the parking lot. I used to be on the rail. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. That's my job.
Remember. Oh yeah.
So if we're throwing people out for stuff like that, that's got to stop. And so we got to have a conversation about that. Go ahead, Nick.
I'm about to get really. I should just shut up. But I've had enough whiskey to talk about it.
Yes.
When I was a student working for Robe, our press box got broken into 15 times, and they stole equipment. And I mean, we wouldn't lock it, and people got okay. Well, one weekend they came and stole all the equipment. Like there was nothing left. Speakers, whatever. I got questioned. They came to me, the guy running the equipment, and asking me if I stole it. I'm talking about university police. I promise you this is not, I mean, in my opinion, I don't know. I don't have inside connections. But from my perspective in dealing with this type of thing 20 years ago, I feel like it's with the university police and the university itself. I don't think it's athletics. I think athletics is trying to accommodate what the university is telling them that they need to do. But again, Josh, I'm like you. If you're throwing things or you're hurling racial slurs,
get out of here. We don't need that shit.
We don't need that, and we don't need you at the university. Period. Go your way and whatever. But tonight, somebody posted a picture or posted an Eastern Michigan fan said, "Hey, this trash guy has a sign that says, I bet the guys from Eastern Michigan get their water from Flint or drink the Flint water." So we're allowing people to have those signs at the game, but yet you can't say your mama's on crack to the players and without getting thrown out or getting like what? Right. So where are we going with this?
Look, dude, this is college football. This is collegiate athletics. And
even
this is not daycare. This is not like a Jesus camp. All right. I mean, there's going to be some stuff in the stands that are not great. All right. There's going to be a level of a little cringe here and there. They're kids. They're 18, 20, 23 years old. Leave them alone. They're not going to come back to the games if you kick them out for just saying a couple of F-bombs, whatever.
But even better, my friend, an adult, a grown-ass man, got told he couldn't sit in that section. He had to sit with students. So here's a 35-year-old guy sitting with students cramped like this. You know, I guess COVID's not a thing anymore because that was a thing. That was not a thing. So we're not worried about COVID anymore. You can be, you know, in the middle of the stupid section. Like, what are we doing? Like you said, Josh, do we want students to come or do we not want students to come? We can't make it more difficult for people to come because we already know that there are other things to do in Lafayette on a Saturday night than go to a football game. So you have to make people want to go, and you have to make it easy for people to go. You can't make it more difficult. And it seems like here we go again with the UP and the university. Again, I don't know if this is fact, but my opinion, the UP is pissed off because somebody flicked an officer off or told him off, and they kick him out. And then they go to the university, and the university's like, "Oh, well, we got to change this." And now, I mean, what are we doing? Do we want it or do we not?
What are we doing? I'm going to keep asking the question, and hopefully somebody will reach out to us because the event staff guys started following the page tonight. So hopefully they reach out. We need to have a conversation about this because you can't invite the students to the game and throw them out when they get there. Can't do it. If they're not being inappropriate, you can't throw them out. All right. This whole fine business, never heard of it in my entire life. look, maybe they've come up with a system that works and they got some input from somebody else who does it. And look, if somebody deserves it, then yes, absolutely, we need to target those people. We don't want to be associated with that. However, I didn't see anything. And I watch them over there all the time. I look at students more than I look at anything else other than the game, because I want them to be the rowdiest, most engaged student section in the country. We need it. We got to have it. So I don't know. We're going to investigate it. Go ahead, Jerry.
Well, when I was a student, I mean, I was on the rail too. I was on the rail for a good 4 years or 4 or 5 years, however long I was in school. I don't even remember. But anyway, you know, we were always very clever on the stuff we would say, and it was never really anything personal, and obviously it was never anything that was very derogatory. Some of it was so clever that the players would turn around and laugh at us. They'd be like, okay, that's funny. Or the other player would pick on the guy that we were picking on. But you know, there were even times I remember when we had this was towards my last few seasons, or when I was a senior. And you can tell some of the freshmen or younger guys would come and they would just start throwing the F word and F you and all this stuff. And we would literally turn around and be like, guys, none of that. Like, no.
Oh my God, the F word. What are we going to do?
But like, well, we say that because we're like, dude, be more original. Like, don't just come in and start cursing at people. Be more original. We want some cleverness in our student section. And there was a lot of it. But, you know, my thing is it's to the point where, again, unless you're yelling a racial slur, unless you're throwing something at people, unless you're spitting on players, like if you're just saying, hey, number 42, you're terrible, you stink. I mean, if you're going to throw a student out for that, then why go to the game? What's the point of enjoying the game as a student? And so I don't know what the situation is. All I know is if you're going to be punished, if you're going to punish the entire student section because 1 or 2 students decided to act the fool, then at that point, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know. What are we doing?
It better have a very good story behind it, and they better have they need to have deserved it, because if they don't, and that gets into the fan base, the student section fan base, they're not coming back.
Well, here's
and you can't overdo that.
We just brought back the students. We just really brought back the students a few years ago. Remember when they moved the tailgate? They moved the tailgate, and
yes,
we weren't getting any student attendance, and we finally got it right. We bring them back, and now we're kicking students out again. So, no, like you said, Josh, we're definitely going to kind of try to find out what's going on there. And look, if we find out that the students were being very inappropriate, did something dumb, then yeah, it's justified. But if it's just them saying a bunch of things like, hey, you stink, and you're throwing them out for that or fining them for that, then come on, really? Seriously?
Well, you guys know that we'll say the truth. If we find out, or they tell us or whatever, that things that happen were inappropriate, well, then that's fine. But look, using the F word, I know, guys, language is so horrible. You don't get thrown out for using the freaking F word. All right, I almost said the F and F word. But you don't get thrown out for that. You don't get thrown out for that. You can't.
Well, and again, but like I said, when we were students, if you kept yelling out the F word and you weren't original, we would just tell you, hey, find something more original than just say F you. You know,
yeah,
I mean,
we did the same thing.
I don't know, but yeah.
Georgia Southern fan on the board here. Go ahead and take it. Appreciate you checking in.
No, appreciate it, man. Yeah, just wondering what y'all think about after tonight. Y'all think you're gonna, take West, or you think Southern Miss has a chance? Who you think you're gonna take the West at this point in time?
Well, I think that we have a long way to go right now.
Yeah, a lot of football to be played, my friend.
We're absolutely a work in progress, and I'll be honest with you. I think the second half of this past game, I know we didn't get into it, and we will in a little bit, but I think the second half of the game showed what we can do when we make adjustments and we exploit the matchups that we have for ourselves, that we have the talent on the outside. We've talked about the wide receiver core and how highly we think of them, and we again talked about the secondary. So we feel like we can play with anybody in the belt. Obviously, right now, Marshall and App State are flying high, but the West is open for now. We have a lot of work to do. Maybe Nick has a different opinion, but I still think we have the talent to compete for sure.
Yeah, we do. But look, South Alabama today, they went up 33-10 in the first half against one of the other Michigans. I think it was Central Michigan. So I think they're going to challenge Texas State. I think kicked ass today. So unexpectedly, they beat FIU. So yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a cakewalk. We still have a lot of work to do. And we got to, still got to face off against some really good competition in the Eastern Division, and potentially, if we win the West, face a team in App or Marshall that obliterated SEC and Power 5 competition today.
Top
So,
10, baby. Top 10.
Yeah. It's not gonna be easy.
Jerry, let's move on. I want to encourage everybody. Look, get in, request to speak. We'll put you on. And also, by the way, if you're new to the pod, subscribe, rate, review, all that stuff. I gotta remind myself to remind everybody.
Hey, what y'all think about Billy taking the baton all the way to Florida? I saw that on Twitter. I was like, what the heck? He did whatever y'all, red and white.
Well, they ripped off a lot of stuff from here.
All the way to Florida.
They ripped off a lot of
All
stuff
the
from here.
players.
Yeah, I know it. Well, we're gonna figure it out though. Hey, Georgia Southern, look, great win tonight for you guys. That's a blue blood win, and the belt really showed out. And we'll do a segment on the league because, man, that's a banner day for the Sun Belt. So, yeah, absolutely, man. Appreciate you checking in. Let's move on to what you liked. We're gonna go to what you liked in the second half. We'll act like the first half didn't happen, and we'll move on to the second half. By the way, have you seen a lightning delay be called the halftime, and then they moved from second quarter to third? No. That was very strange. So that was new on me.
First time.
What did you guys like? What did you guys like in the second half? What did you like? I'm gonna start with you, Jerry. Go ahead.
Well, obviously, I like scoring 49 points. I think that's the easy answer. I also like the fact that we had. I thought we made adjustments as far as I think Dez kind of let the quarterbacks use their throwing abilities. I mean, we went vertical a lot, and we ran some play action and went down. I mean, we threw a few down the seam. And one thing I've learned, both Chandler and Ben have some really solid arms. I mean, very accurate downfield. I mean, those touchdown passes, I haven't seen us score touchdown passes like that, multiple touchdown passes down the field like that in a very long time. And that was nice to see. You've got two quarterbacks who can throw the football, and it showed tonight. I was very impressed with the adjustments that the defense made. I thought our defensive line put a lot more pressure on Powell in the second half.
No
he was
question.
getting a lot of time to throw in the first half, which allowed him to move the ball downfield. I thought we were a lot more aggressive, and we pressed our will in the second half. And the defensive line, I thought our secondary flew to the ball in the second half. I thought we kind of pressed up on the coverage a little bit and put some more pressure on Powell, forcing him to make some throws. I mean, it got to the point where we picked off a few passes. And I was also impressed with the way the offensive line made some adjustments. I thought we were able to open up the run game a little bit in the second half. The main thing that I really enjoyed was how we just imposed our will. And we talked about in the first half coming in, we're the Cajuns. We have a 14-game win streak. We can just win by showing up. I think the guys in the locker room realized, you know what? Eastern Michigan came to play. We know who we are. They want to play some football. We're going to play some football with them. And it showed big time in the third quarter when we were able to put up 21 and go toe-to-toe with them and make that comeback. I was very impressed by the way we imposed our will and really wore them down on all three phases. I mean, we wore them out. I mean, by the fourth quarter, I mean, we were just scoring like it was nothing. And it wasn't just because of the coaching and the play calling, which I thought Mike did a great job, calling plays in the second half. But I also thought it was just because we're more conditioned. We're better conditioned. This is where strength and conditioning is very important. Teams that are well conditioned teams that aren't well conditioned don't score 49 points in the second half. They just don't do that. So that's something that, to me, that strength and conditioning side of things, that's going to come in handy later in the season. Because as you know, injuries happen, teams start to lose, side of things. And I think the mental toughness, both physically and mentally, is going to really, really benefit us later in the year when we start playing for something more than just, trying to get our feet wet like we're doing right now.
Nick, what'd you like in the second half? Mike, we'll come to you after Nick.
What did not like in the second half? What I did like was the officiating, because they were still terrible, and I hope we never have a MAC crew ever in the history of Everdom in Cajun Field again. And if Dr. Maggott, if you're watching this, which I hope you are, if we have any contract signed with any MAC team, don't make sure you cross out, block out anything that says having their own officiating crew. But what I do like was the turnovers. It wasn't like turnovers over tip balls or like a guy just happens to fumble. Those were forced turnovers. Though that was some hosses on our defense going after it. And they played their butts off that second half till the very last whistle. I love to see that. I feel like at some point they felt disrespected, which they should have felt, because we were getting whooped up and down the field. And at some point, our team realized, like, you can either fold and take it, or you can come back and you can, kind of bow up to them and show them who you are. And they did. So I really like the response that we had coming back from those situations. And look, we're going to need that later in the season. Again, we're going to play some really good teams in conference, and we're going to have situations where things aren't going our way. But tonight was a good measuring stick to show we were down 14-0, and we came back and scored 49 points and a half against a good, I'm not going to say a great, but I'm going to say a decent to good G5 team, which, by the way, that's going to be going away in a couple years. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like in the second half, and the way that we responded to adversity, and not just a little bit of adversity, like nothing going your way, absolutely nothing going your way, and we turned it around. So really like to see that tonight. Everything else you said, I agree with, bud.
One thing I wanted to add too. The last couple of years in the beginning of the season, we've struggled to really put games away. In these last 2 weeks, last week we won by 17 and we didn't play our best. This week we barely showed up in the first half, won the game by 28. I mean, winning consecutive games by that many points, that's not something we've done in a long time either, in spite of all the success that we've had over the last few years, especially in the beginning of the season. Billy's teams always kind of started off sluggish or slow, where we just kind of, you'd win the close games, the last second field goals, the one play that made the difference. This last 2 weeks, winning by this many points, it's kind of refreshing, to be honest with you, in spite of the win streak that we're in right now at 15.
If people weren't in the building, I can't describe enough how flat and deflated the fan base was. The players, the coaches were upset. Mike was hollering. It was disarray. It takes a special group to be able to overcome something like that. I mean, it was completely dead. I mean, there was no pulse. And all of a sudden, they got pissed off. I mean, that's something. That's something that you can hang your hat on. Like, Mike can go in and use that in practice. And again, we ended up winning the game by multiple scores, and they still have a lot to do in practice. But what I liked is, number one, the attitude shift. They got mad. Number two, the coaches obviously saw, look, we need to open this thing up. And they did it, and they executed it, and we exploited our mismatches and our talent. We utilized our talent. But number three, and my most favorite, all right, how many times did they throw the tight end in the first half, Jerry? I can tell you how many times. One time.
Yeah, I was about to say, I couldn't even remember.
In the second half alone, 2 touchdowns to the tight end and multiple throws and targets. I just want to continue to reiterate. Throw the damn ball to the freaking tight end. I mean, we exploited it and we just destroyed them over and over and over by just throw it. Neil Johnson's open, guys. He's always open. Johnny Lumpkin, always open. Pierce Meagle caught a touchdown. What are we doing? I understand that we got big, tall, good-looking wide receivers. I get it. But so does the defense. The defense knows that we have big, tall, fast, good-looking wide receivers. Throw it to the freaking tight end, for God's sake. Mike Hebert, it was great to see you at the game today. Please give us your thoughts.
Well, when I visited with you guys during the break, I was very critical of the offensive line, if you recall. And what was the difference in the second half? Yes, we opened it up, but I think the difference in the second half was we used the big backs more with Kobodi and Williams, which got us 3-4 yards on first down instead of 1 to 2 yards or behind the sticks when Chris Smith was in there. Now, Chris had a great run, and that was a third down, if you call it. Maybe he's best as a third down back. But when we get the big backs in there, it makes the offensive line not look so bad because they can push the pile forward. That's my main takeaway. So maybe the offensive line needs some help from the backs. And that allowed us to throw the ball.
And Mike, the other thing,
we were on schedule.
The other thing, you and I talked about this in the stands, if you can't protect the quarterback, get the ball out of his hand. 3-step drop, I mean, let's work on some screens. How many bubbles did we throw? 1 or 2? I mean, let's use the aggressiveness of the defense that is pummeling our offensive line against them. And you didn't see a whole lot of that. And I was disappointed in Mike and Tim on that. I thought that we had an opportunity there to use their aggressiveness against them, and I didn't see a whole lot of that.
Well, in the second half we did, and when Ben comes in the game, he gets the ball out of his hand a lot faster than Chandler does. Chandler has a better arm. There was one ball that been underthrew that probably would have been a touchdown. It was still a completion, and Chandler was in there. So, personally, I don't have a big problem with both quarterbacks playing. At some point, maybe that'll change. But I remember at the quarterback club, Mike said, hey, when I was a freshman, I wasn't ready to play. I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to play both my guys, so something happens to Chandler, the other guys could be ready to go. So they both have their attributes, I think. But anyway, you go back to the big back. You know, when you're in 2nd and 7 or 2nd and 6, it's a lot different than 2nd and 11, where you can get to 3rd and 3. We made some first downs running the ball in 3rd and 3. I know we opened it up, but we were able to open it up because we had on schedule. We had normal downs.
Agree.
And I want to say something for the older fans. The game reminded me of, I think it's 1983, where the Cajuns were playing Northeast Louisiana before some of you guys were born. It was homecoming in early November, a cool night. They played it homecoming at night back in days. And the Cajuns got the ball like 2nd or 3rd play of the second half. The White threw them. Is now in business here. Takes the quarterback sneak and goes 60 yards for a touchdown. The Cajuns win 40-26. So that reminds me of, you know, second time in my life I see 40 points plus scored in the second half of Cajun field. So, one if any other old timers remember that game. And my final comment is, you know, a lot of key plays in the game. I think the key play was Eric Garrar. That punt return he had early in the second half, where he got it inside the 20 and the 25, that sparked the team. That's all it took. One big play. So the second week in a row, he makes a big play. I'll let other people get on, but those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Mike. Eric is an unsung hero. It feels like he always sticks some energy into the game somehow or another. He affects the game. I know he had the play, like we mentioned it earlier, he had the touchdown that was thrown on him. But other than that, the guy's always around a football for some reason. Punt return, obviously he can make a play, but I mean, I love him. I think that he is the most underappreciated guy, and I say it all the time, but Eric Garrar is one of those guys that they don't get a lot of shine because they just do their job. And when you do your job, the ball doesn't come your way very often. So I think the world of him. Andrew, you're up next, sir. Please go. Let us hear your thoughts.
Yeah, kind of just piggybacking on what was just said. Staying ahead of the sticks in the second half. I mean, first half, every time you looked up, it looked like it was 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, and you can't get anything going when you're doing that. 2nd and 5, 2nd and 6, just manageable downs. You're able to rely on the offensive line a little bit more, and that second half, it opened up everything else. You saw we were able to get shots downfield with Jefferson and Stevens, and when you have guys like that on the outside, they're going to win their one-on-one. It's just going to happen. Those guys are NFL talents, and they're going to win one-on-ones on the outside. And really the receiving core is just so deep. Stevens, you got Pete, you got Bernard, who had a few plays tonight, Lumpkin, Neal. I mean, it's just there's so many weapons. And you're able to stay ahead of the stick, and those weapons are even more of a threat whenever you're able to stay on schedule.
It's a good point. It's a good point. It changes the offensive attack. And, you know, I'm surprised that I think Errol Rogers is a fine player. I'm just surprised at how many snaps he gets. I mean, Fleming made tons of plays last year. And I expected him to be a stalwart in the slot, and you don't really see him. I know he got into the game today, but Errol Rogers gets a whole lot of snaps, and they move him around, so they must have a lot of confidence in him. But he's right. I mean, you got Pete, you got all these guys. I mean, I know Jacob Bernard kind of got dinged up in the first game, but he had a nice catch today, and they must like him because he gets snaps too. I am kind of curious that Pete's really not getting a whole lot of targets. That's curious to me. Anybody see anything out of that?
No, but I'll just add on to what you said about spreading the ball around. We had 10 guys who had a catch tonight, at least one reception. So that awesome. To me was great because I feel like last week Chandler went to Lumpkin because that was a safety valve. That was his guy. But tonight, both quarterbacks spread the ball around the field. So when you're talking about having talent in the wide receiver core, tonight is what I think all three of us and probably a lot of fans expected is to have a lot of opportunities for them to throw to different receivers. So that was encouraging to see tonight.
Jerry, what'd you see on the wide receiver core tonight?
Everybody got a piece of the pie, which I like. I like the fact that everybody got to touch the ball. because now you've just given other teams or future opponents a lot more homework to do with film
Yes.
study.
Yes.
And when you throw to 3 different tight ends for touchdowns, and you almost throw to 4 different tight ends for touchdowns. I think one of our backups almost got into the end zone towards the end of the game. When you do that, you just give defensive coordinators headaches left and right when now they have to prepare for that. And then if the run game gets going, I mean, it's kind of like the 2009 through 2011 Saints. Remember how loaded they were with the Sean Payton Breeze offense?
2011 Saints are the best team they ever had.
I mean,
they are. The team that lost to Alex Smith and the 49ers is
Yeah.
the best Saints team we've ever seen.
But the offense, I mean, look how many weapons that offense had. And I know it's NFL, but it's
Hey, by the way, who was the
concept.
best receiver on that team that year? I'll give you a hint. He wasn't a wide receiver.
Oh, it was it Jimmy Graham?
And what position does he play, Jerry?
He plays tight end.
You don't say.
Hey, before you guys go on, can I go back to Michael's comment earlier about conditioning? Because he was talking about how EMU was gas, and I forgot to mention that as one of the things that I liked in the second half. Michael mentioned that they were gas, and we feel like we took the steam out of them. That has to do with 2 things. One, Connor Neighbors. I've heard nothing but great things about him in the conditioning program that he has for our program. Number 2, that shows me we have depth. And that was something that I was a little bit concerned about this year because we had so many players that were, 3-4 deep in the last couple seasons that are now 1 and 2s, and wondering what that depth would look like. Tonight, I saw depth at every position that made me feel really good about going into the 4th quarter down by maybe a score and being able to outlast and outperform and outcondition the other team. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jerry, but I just had to mention that because I thought that was very important tonight, is that our depth and our conditioning really played a key role in that big comeback tonight.
Well, and look, Billy was a second half guy. He was a second half coach. He prided himself on being a second half team. And I'm here to tell you, we're still a second half team, and that feels pretty damn good.
I mean, you scored 49 points. I don't know. I mean, how much more second half team can you get than that,
Well, we sure as hell weren't a first half team, Jerry. So.
I mean, my God. It was like 2 different teams. After somebody made a comment about the kicking guy. They got number 56 that got thrown out, the Eastern Michigan guy who kicked one of our players. As soon as that happened, it was like they took it personally. So now, look, this is what we need to do. We need to get Mike to get somebody from the stands or something to kick the player before we play next game. The request to speak,
or just do like the team.
Go ahead, Nick.
The team 60 miles down the street last night or tonight had a fan just go on the field and just hang out during play. He just went out there and stood and just looked around and was like, "Hey, what's up, y'all?" Stood by the quarterback while play was going on. So maybe we could do that too. I don't know. Whatever gets them riled up.
The cuckoo over there, Jerry. The cuckoo. Man. Anyway, anybody wants to speak, please request. If you're new to the pod, request, rate, subscribe, all that stuff, or review. Let's move on to what we didn't like. We're going to close it with didn't like, obviously. Well, before we do that, our buddy Isaac, who we haven't heard from for quite a while. Let's get him on the air. Isaac, it's yours, buddy. Take it.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I guess I'm just in time for what I didn't like it.
Yeah, we're going to do what we didn't like after the caller comments, but we'll make it short because, honestly, we know what happened in the first half. We came out flat. We looked like crap. We had this false sense of superiority, and we shouldn't have, and we got humbled, which is a good thing, especially when you can get the W.
Yeah, I need someone to rant about the NFL Network broadcast for a second.
Oh, man, you're going to get Nick fired up. Hang on a second. Hey, tell you what, you give your comments, and I'm going to just give it to Nick because he's been hollering about it for 4 hours.
Oh, I mean, it's just that, camera work is obviously not an easy thing to do. But I just remember seeing, like, multiple times whenever punts would happen, the camera would just, like, kind of lounge around, like, just kind of looking at punter, and it kind of, like, just kind of drift wherever it wanted to.
it was really funny to see, like a team that didn't really know how the camera works.
Well, luckily I got to watch it in person. I would not trust the NFL Network to do a good college game. I don't know. Nick was just blowing us up like, this is horrible. Who are these people on the cameras?
Bro, I
Go
would
ahead.
you guys about a lot of things that first half of the game, but it was embarrassingly bad. It was almost like watching South Carolina Central State University stream on YouTube, from a camcorder. I mean, they literally could not follow a play. God forbid they had like a misdirection play, because they were definitely not following where the ball went. I mean, there was one play where I think we faked a hand up off the middle and maybe threw a screen. And like he was tracking that guy going up the middle, and I'm like, he didn't even have a football. Completely missed the play. The announcers got better as the game went on, but they weren't even identifying. They were still calling. They were calling Ben Chandler. Like, they didn't even identify that we had a new quarterback in the game. Mispronouncing names, which to me is the biggest taboo of announcer of any level, of any sport, of any. If you're going to be worth your while in anything, you got to at least learn how to pronounce the names. So again, they got better as the game went on, but it was embarrassingly bad. They didn't even have a first down yellow marker on the screen. And when we, as a college university, have that, and the NFL net, are you kidding me? The NFL Network that has Thursday night football games can't even get a crew or the technology to put a first down marker on the screen. It was bad. I hope we never have to do NFL Network again. I appreciate the national, I guess, being on a national spotlight, whatever. But then again, you think about it, we only had like 1 3/4 of a half that were actually on TV before it cut off to lightning, and then everybody checked out and nobody turned it back on. So hope we never do that again. I will take my ESPN Plus for us 100% of the time. Whether or not that's the right thing to do, I don't know, but it was terrible. So thank you for bringing that up, Isaac, and getting me triggered again.
Shout out to the stream team who do a fantastic job of covering the games and using the video cameras to perfection. So I see Joel in here. I know he's probably getting a good smile out of that. But look, I don't know when they introduced the first down marker, but I remember thinking this is weird. Now I can't imagine watching a game without it. So what the hell are we doing on the NFL Network? I mean, they're not short on money. What were they doing? Budget cuts? Like, what are we doing here? Why? How do we not have that? Yeah. Anybody who wants to request to speak, do it. We'll get you on. But let's move on to what we didn't like. What we didn't like, I guess I'll get it started. What I didn't like. What I didn't like was, number one, the officiating. I know you already mentioned it. It was at the very top of my list. Some of this stuff was so bad. It was like unconscionable. And I don't really go in on refs often. Dave sent a tweet where he found like literally every time I've ever said the officiating is bad. Some of the tweets were from like 2014. It's like, Dave, of course, if you type in me complaining about officiating, you're gonna find something, you jerk. Anyway, it was some of the worst I've ever seen. It was I mean, seriously, like, incompetent is being nice. And I think that Mike is one of the most down-to-earth guys. I don't see him get animated too much on the sideline. He was upset the entire game. And Tim's a little bit more intense, but he was upset the entire game. So that is at the very top of my list. My second thing would be, I really did not like the offensive game plan. To me, you see these guys in practice every week, every day. You got to know that the left side is weak. You got to know that offensive line is a work in progress. Let's take a 3-step drop and get the football out. Let's use defensive aggressiveness to our advantage. Let's see some bubble screens. Let's see a screen to a Chris Smith. Or Kadobi, for me, is a great candidate for a screen. He's tough. He's big. I mean, he kind of looks like a wide receiver. Why don't we utilize that? Again, a tight end screen. He'd be great. I just don't understand what the game plan was going in. Did we feel like we were just going to run it down their throat? Because their defensive line was more physical than our offensive line for at least half of that football game. So I didn't like that at all. I know that we're going to have a segment about game day experience, but how you have concessions on the student side of things totally closed, why do we even have them? Why are we not using? Why is that not open? That's going to be part of my game day rant, but I really didn't like that. I mean, the lines were bad. You can't invite 27,000 people to come to your game, and then when you get there, you can't serve them. You know, we had to go to 3 different concessions to get a bag of popcorn, and that's no lie. We're still working on that. What do we do this every year, every game? It's incredible. But anyway, I also, the other thing is it's kind of on the periphery, but I didn't like that we honored HUD in 2011 at the end of the first quarter, or like in a TV timeout. Why are we not bringing them out at halftime? Right? I know that's a small thing, but I thought that I thought that whole thing could have been done a whole lot better. Now, the crowd treated him spectacularly. I mean, great ovation. The team was excited. You could tell he really appreciated it. I'm glad that people remember what HUD did for this place. That was a special moment, but I would have liked to seen it done at halftime. Why at a TV timeout at the end of the first quarter? I don't know. I didn't like that at all. Jerry, what didn't you like?
I didn't like how the offensive line couldn't open up a run game in the first half. Again, I know I'll reiterate it, but when Chris Smith, who is used to breaking 70, 80-yard touchdown runs, can barely get to the line of scrimmage because we have no blockers, that's scary to me. That's very concerning. Again, I'm glad that they were able to make adjustments in the second half and create a little bit of a run game, but didn't like that about the first half. But another thing I didn't like,
there's so many to choose from.
I think the game plan, sort of those pre-scripted plays, wasn't effective. So it looked a lot more sluggish. I thought
it looked clunky. It looked like
exactly. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I'll say this. If you notice in the second half how much we opened the playbook, the way we went vertical downfield, the way we were just kind of spreading the field open, I think Mike realized it's like, look, I have a lot of tools in the shed that I can use. And I think he was able to do that in the second half, mixing and matching with the run game as well. But I think another thing that we haven't mentioned yet, and one of the things that I noticed going into the game, or at least studied going into the game, was we're just a faster team than they are. I noticed in the second half, we utilized our speed tremendously, whether it was creating turnovers through interceptions by our secondary, they broke routes, whether it was our wide receivers getting open, long, outrunning the secondary for those deep balls. And also we utilized the edge more in the second half. That run by Chris Smith to start the fourth quarter, I believe it was, where he kind of hit the line of scrimmage and just burst out to the right side to hit the goal, to hit the end zone for a score. We were just faster than them. But
we were way more athletic than they were.
Yeah, But what I didn't like about it was I wish we would have done that from kickoff. I wish we wouldn't have waited a full half to do that, because I've said this last year. You start playing better teams as the season goes on, and teams that are more familiar with you, you might not get away with just playing in the second half. What if a team jumps to a 21-0 score on you? It's a lot harder to catch up from that in the second half. We got to go on the road to Marshall. We got to go on the road to Southern Miss. We play teams like Troy, who know who we are. Georgia Southern comes to Lafayette in November. They just beat Nebraska on the road. You can't start off slow against those type of teams and expect the second half to come save you. I think it's safe to say we'd all rather play a full game, right? So that's pretty much my dislikes.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that.
You guys pretty much said it all that I was going to say, except for a couple things. One, our goal line offense, while I get it, we punched it in a couple times. It's 2 weeks in a row where we could not get any push on the offensive line and get a running back in the end zone when we're running up the middle at the goal line. That's a little bit concerning because we had like 6 chances tonight. I think we ran it up the middle 3 times, didn't get any push, didn't get any holes, and then there was a penalty which gave us a fresh set of downs, and we still didn't run it in. We had to pass it. Last week against Southeastern, they stuffed us on a 4th and half, a yard to get into the end zone. So I think that was a little bit concerning. And I'm about to give a polarizing take here. The NFL Network's obsession with Coach O I was completely
Embarrassing.
over that. I could have. I made a joke every time they mention him or show him on air, take a shot. But I will say,
Unknown caller.
I know you may not agree with this, but if we're gonna have him on the sideline and we're gonna have him, people taking pictures with him, and we're gonna have him at practices, I know it's not necessarily popular with everyone, but he is a popular figure in Acadiana. We need to make him a part of the program in some way, shape, or form. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. I think I get there's a lot of baggage. I get that he was an LSU guy, but if he's gonna be here, let's use it to our advantage and not waste it away. And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Well, I mean, we do need a mascot, so maybe he can be Cajun Man.
That'd be awesome, man. I will say that would be awesome.
That's hilarious. I see Jerry just posted that attendance has been changed to NA. Yeah, it's NA. 15,000. Why the hell would you even release that? That's so stupid. We hate ourselves. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I found that out. Okay, you're gonna make fun of me, but somebody had posted it on Ragin Cajuns. Then I went to Eastern Michigan site and it put it at 15,352. And then I go back to Eastern Michigan site and then UL puts it up on theirs and it just says NA. So
I don't understand how we do things.
well, Nick. Okay, so Nick, I remember Nick, when you worked the baseball games, how did you guys do attendance?
Jerry, can we move on to the next question?
Okay, see, right there's a prime example of tonight.
We make it up.
They probably went in the back. They're like,
we don't make it up. There's a formula involved.
there's a formula. Yeah.
Taking into consideration butts in the seats, tickets sold, all that.
Hold on, Nick. Hang on one second.
Somebody doesn't have arithmetic skills.
No. We just had a breakthrough moment and nobody even caught it. How do you determine attendance? Well, there's a formula. There's a formula. You count the tickets.
Can we just move on?
No, that's good. That's good. Listen up. Anybody who wants to speak, please request. We'll put you on. We're gonna move on to game day experience because this is a good segue. Jerry got there right before kickoff. We were there probably 3.5 hours before the game, kind of meandering. Lots of Ragin Review love out there, so that was really cool. But when we first got there, the student tailgate was a little bit thin. And when we made our way to the other side and we saw kind of like Tent Alley and all that stuff, it was impressive. There was a good group, but the buzz was very apparent. So that was cool. I was impressed by the tailgate tonight or this afternoon. I was very impressed. It had more feeling of excitement and that like festival feel than it's had in a long time. Shout out to Catherine for calling it a festival feel because she thought it was like, hey, we do festivals here, so we should call it that, which I thought was actually pretty smart. So it was more of a tailgate festival type feel. A lot of people got there probably about an hour before the game and kind of trickled in. You could see the crowd growing over the course of 30 minutes to an hour and over and over. The tailgate at the RV area was better, still unacceptable. We really got to figure out a way to get people to bring their campers. My idea, I was just kind of shooting the breeze with Mr. Butler and Pogie's Clint. And we were saying that, you know what, instead of these people grabbing their RVs and their fifth wheel and going over to Cajun Palms, which it costs like $100 to $120 a night if you bring a golf cart and all this stuff, why don't we just give them a parking spot at Cajun Field until we get a waiting list and then start charging? Wouldn't that be an atmosphere, right? That's a conversation for another day. But the tailgate was, I thought, outstanding for the first time in quite a while. Call it the HUD effect. Call it, Eastern Michigan in good weather. I don't know. I thought that was outstanding. So I'm going to give kudos to everybody for the tailgate situation. A lot of fun. In game, all right? Well, I'll say this. Before that we got into the game, I thought that our event staff did a good job of getting information out to the fans, out to the public in a timely manner, better than we have in the past. So shout out to the administration and everybody who's in charge of that. Great job. I think that more people knew what was going on. I think it was no accident that the Cajun Walk was more crowded this week than it was last week because they had the information out on Friday, not on Saturday freaking morning. I digress. However, I thought that the event staff as a whole got their information out better this week. In the stadium, again, you can't invite 25 to 30,000 people and not have popcorn ready. I mean, this is the bare effing basic. This is bare minimum. You gotta have water and popcorn ready for people. All right. The beer lines were long. I complained to Jerry when I saw him. We're standing in line 30 freaking minutes. We're still doing that. We knew that a lot of people were going to show up. The weather was good. We expected a big crowd. HUD and the 2011 team were coming, and we still can't get it right. You don't even have the concession stands open on the student side. I don't understand that at all. What do we spend money for that? Why do we open all that and spend a bunch of donor dollars to open that stuff, and you don't even have workers there to sell concessions? What are we doing there? So you got too long of lines in the south end zone. If you go under the overhang or the press box, give me a break. That's a joke. You're going to be there 45 minutes. I'm not going to give you the secret place to go because I'm not telling everybody because it's my own little secret. And there's only a few people that know where to go to get concessions without standing in line. I'm going to take it to my grave. But for the common folk that go around the concourse, we are not taking care of our people. We're just not. It's still bad. It's still bad. Did Jerry, did you have any thoughts about game day experience? I know Nick was kind of holding it down in H-Town, but what did you think about the game day experience in the stadium?
I really didn't. I went straight to my seat, so I really didn't get the chance to go to the concession stand. I know, like, my mom actually came to the game with me, and she said that the lines were a lot longer unless you had an RCAF card to cut the line. So, and I walked by right after the lightning delay, and I mean the lines were really long. I don't know why. I don't know what caused it to be that way, but that's always been kind of an issue. I'm hoping the new stadium, whenever it's built, kind of addresses that because, again, it's like you've said before, Josh. You go to a game and you spend a good bit of money, whether it's bringing your wife, your kids, or whoever, or friends, and you're missing half of a half because you're in line trying to get popcorn because the popcorn machine doesn't work or the credit card machine's Wi-Fi is not working where you can actually scan the card, or you ran out of hot dog buns. It's like, come on, man. Like, you got to prepare for these things. So yeah, I mean, it's one thing to have the lines long because it's just a lot of people, but it's another thing when you have issues in the back. So that's the kind of thing I think they need to address. Outside of that, I don't know. Maybe I'm a pyro guy. I actually like the fireworks in the end zone when we scored. I thought that was pretty cool. They actually got so I'm in the college pageantry. I love the pregame show when the band marches out. When the team came out the tunnel, they actually got it right this week. Last week, they kind of jumped the gun on the pregame video.
You're right about that.
I got fired up, man. They had the smoke and all that. They came out through the whole Ragin Cajun banner. They got the video down. Great entrance. I love the entrance.
It was much better. I agree.
We did a good job with the entrance with the band, on the field and stuff. So that was cool. But as far as game day experience as a whole, the concessions is always going to be the big issue. People want to eat, people want to drink. Outside of that, again, the fireworks were cool. I mean, I think there's really only so much you can do when you really think about it. I mean, you go watch. You're there to watch a football game. So
yeah, but it's the small stuff for me. It's the small stuff for me. And Nick, I'm going to ask you how it looked on TV, but it's the small stuff for me. I'll give you an example. And this is just a small gripe. I look, I'm not crushing anybody. It's an idea, right? You open up the Teague to tailgate, right? There are 7 or 8 TVs above concession stands. They're all off. There's one big, gigantic jumbo TV in the back, in left center, and they're playing tennis. The Sun Belt is in the middle of having one of their most incredible days ever, and they have the U.S. Open on or whatever the tennis tournament that's going on right now. Why not play a Sun Belt game? Why not? I mean, honestly, even a big primetime game that people are interested in, why not play that? These are very small things that I think that can really impact game day experience and why people would want to come back to watch your game. You got to remind them that we're part of an ecosystem where there are 130 or 129 other teams playing today, and every single one of those teams may impact us in some way. Like, experience the whole thing. The league is good. The league is going to make noise. The league matters. Let's put their games on our TVs while we're tailgating. To me, that's a very, very small thing that can make a big difference. Because look, Nick, I would have probably left my house a little bit earlier if I didn't finish watching the Georgia State game. Had I known that the Georgia State game was going to be on at the Teague, I'd have just walked my ass over to the Teague and watched it on the big screen. I struggle to understand why we can't use the resources that we have to enhance the experience. And that's a very small example. What do we look like on TV?
Look, first of all, I'm going to say what you just said, the last statement you made, enhance the experience, is so true. So you go, and I get it. These are professional sports, but you go to a Saints game, you go to an Astros game, which I've been through enough of those, and you have a packed stadium. You know how long it takes me to get a beer? About 3 minutes, start to finish. You know how long it takes me to get food? Maybe at most, even with a full line, 5 minutes. We got to do better, because here's why. We only have 6 chances this season to get it right. And guess what? We're a third through the season and we have it. And in my experience, without sounding too negative, we're going to get it right. And then guess what will happen first game next season? We're going to be talking about this again. There's got to be some sort of continuity or addressing of this that fixes it and fixes it going forward, because every year we're here talking about it again. I feel like at some point it's got to get fixed, and it's got to get fixed for good. I went to one game, a single game, 60 miles across the basin, which I was forced into going to. You know how long it took me to get a beer? Well, at the time, a Coke. 5 seconds. Walked up, long line, probably 2 minutes in line. I got what I needed to get and got back to my seat. So we got to figure it out. Like you said, it's all about the experience and enhancing the experience, because people who are going there want to go to see the game, but don't give them a reason not to go back. You got to give them a reason to come back. And I feel like we're just putting barriers in our way. As far as how it looked on TV, it looked okay. I mean, the home side looked great. When they panned there, I mean, it looked like they had a lot of people filling those seats. It looked silly having a student section and then empty. I mean, that was ridiculous. And again, why did you have a 35-year-old guy being forced to sit with a bunch of students just because I guess he looked young and you didn't believe him, even though he showed you your ticket? We got to get through that, man. And I get it. Again, I know there's pressure from the university. I know, but there's got to be a common ground at some point to have somebody stationed down there. And you know what? If somebody says something out of line, warn them or move them. But you can't punish an entire student. We're trying to attract the students to come to the game. And then we're going to say, oh, well, this guy did something wrong and this guy did something wrong. And we have to find, which I've never heard of. We have to find somebody and issue a warning. Oh, and by the way, everybody's going to have to sit in this one section. So now guess what? When people are pissed off that they have to be huddled up like this for no reason, when there are tons of free seats around them, they're going to do what they did in the first quarter. Like you said today, they're going to leave.
They're going to walk out.
They're going to walk out and they're going to go downtown, or they're going to go to the strip. If that's still, they're going to go somewhere else because that's not fun. And that's unfortunate. We got to fix that. And I really hope there's some meeting of the minds that comes to some better solution than just bullying our students into one section. That's ridiculous. We got to do better than that.
I would say that it was unfortunate 30 years ago when we couldn't figure it out. Now it's stupidity. Somebody can't figure out that it looks bad, first of all, from the other fans that are watching all this go down. I mean, I sent a video to you guys that was just ridiculous. There are no players on the bench or on the field. There are no visiting fans 2 sections within shouting distance of these kids, and they're holding a banner literally 20 feet from where they were before, and this cop comes down and literally like kind of shoves them into the other section, and the kids are like, dude, there's nobody here. We're in the middle of a lightning delay. What are we doing here? And it's the question I'm going to keep asking. What are we doing?
I think it goes back to, again, whatever Yosef's thing that they have at App State, they police themselves. They don't need an officer getting upset and showing, bowing up to them. And they don't need that because they police themselves. They have a process in place. They have people who pay money to do this. And they know the value of, if they screw it up, they're going to be kicked out, and they don't want to get kicked out. So there is something tying them to the pride of being in that organization. And we don't have that yet. So I'm hoping that somebody listens and looks at it and collaborates with App State and see what they have going on, because they do it so much better than we do. And we can get there. We just need somebody to take that first step and engage with the students. And I tell you, if nobody got with the SGA or somebody in the student organization, student government, and said, let's talk about this and come up with a solution, if they just took it among themselves to do this, that's unfortunate, because you're missing an opportunity there to give the students the opportunity to do it themselves and figure it out and say, look, this is acceptable. This is not. You guys figure it out, or we will move to more strict measures. You don't just say, okay, we're putting you in timeout, good luck, and expect them to show up. Not going to happen.
And I think it's on the event staff, or whatever you want to call them, to explain why. Why is this happening? Because the worst thing you can do is first, you guys know how it used to be. Oh, the students don't come to the games. And they would always throw it on the students. They don't come to the games. Okay, well, finally, we're getting a nice contingent of students coming to the games and making noise and being involved. They're dressing up. They're making signs. They're doing all the things you want them to do. And then we're finding them and throwing them out. And then we're shoving them into a singular section where there's nobody around them. I understand that we got to have some structure. I get it. Is it to the detriment of our attendance? There's got to be a line there. And there's got to be a discussion had. SGA, you nailed it. SSO, the Greeks, all of them. Have they come together and have a conversation? We don't know the answer to that, but the question needs to be asked. Is it you made a comment about it earlier, University Police, the ego gets out there, they start moving people around. We've all been there. I've been thrown out of Cajun Field more times than sheesh. I don't even want to get into that, but I understand how they are. I understand it. I've been there. All right. I was one of those, but I knew that I was doing wrong. Throw me out. I get it. I'll come back. I'll be better. If we're throwing kids out for hollering at teammate or the team, any team that we're playing, what are they saying? All right, we've already gone over it. If it's something that's completely inappropriate, handle it. If it's just kind of combative stuff, if you're just hollering at them, if that's not a reason to throw somebody out. And we're in this environment now, and I'm not going to get too far off base here, I promise, but we're in this environment now where it feels like everybody's got to just toe the line, and you can't get out of line. You can't say anything that might hurt somebody's feelings. And listen, it's college sports. This is collegiate athletics. Your job, you're told that your job as a student is to go over there and create a hostile environment. So if they're creating a hostile environment, where's the line? Where's the line?
Now I get it. I think we need to set that line. But I know we
really need to find out. We need to find out what the hell's going on over there. That's what I think.
I agree. I want to kind of switch the subject right now, because this is a great question that we never talked about, I think, this season yet. But it's a great question and something that I'm interested in. Carson mentioned, why can we not get a Power 5 team to Cajun Field? And I think from other interviews that we've heard from Dr. Maggard is that his idea is we play one Power 5 team a year, and then we want 6 home games. So typically he doesn't want to play 2-for-1s or 3-for-1s. He wants to, make it a 1-for-1 deal, and Power 5, that's tough. And I get that when you're looking at North Carolina, you've got UNC and you've got South Carolina that might travel, and you've got other teams that don't have the egos of the Louisiana states in the state that won't travel because they think they're too good for anyone. But I feel like there are other Power 5 teams that we could get to Cajun Field. And even if we had to do a 2-for-1 deal, I think it's worth it. What are you guys' thoughts on that? I feel like we're missing an opportunity to attract fans and get interest in the program, and even give us a chance to upset these guys at home, which you saw with Georgia State had the opportunity today. They didn't pull it off, but they almost did. App State should have won that game as well. So you're seeing teams that are ODU did it, that are getting P5 teams to their stadium. What are your guys' thoughts on it? Is it worth a 2-for-1, or do we stick with our current, what Maggard has in place with our plan going forward?
I think it depends on who the teams are and whether or not they're winnable. If you look at, we did that deal with Mississippi State where we go up to Starkville and then they come to the Superdome. I mean, that game in the Superdome, we really should have won that game.
We should have won it, but financially it was a disaster. We got nothing out of that.
It shouldn't have been. in my opinion. I mean, it was a good idea. You know, we go to the New
The
Orleans.
idea was fine, but
Yeah.
the execution financially was a disaster. I think we ended up having to pay for that.
I agree.
Well, I think also too, you know, in order to get a big time school or a P5 to come, you have to pay. So you have to fork out some money. So we would have to, you know, pull out our wallets and pay them a hefty amount. But the 2-for-1 idea for me, again, I don't mind it. You know, if it's against someone like, okay, prime example, I'll use this school if P5. I would say use somebody like we played with Mississippi State. I would say, you know, from a regional standpoint, maybe like a Texas Tech, I think would be, or
What about
Baylor.
Missouri? Think about Missouri.
You know, I think someone like maybe like we did with Oklahoma State. We did a 2-for-1, I believe. Those are winnable games for us, I would think. And you're going to attract fans. I mean, I remember the Oklahoma State game was a Friday night during Ricky Bustle's last season where we knew we weren't really going to win that year. And they had 27,000 people in the stadium. So
And it was 21-17 at half.
We were winning at halftime. But, you know, I digress. That's the type of crowd you can attract if you bring in a big brand name from a P5. I would say go after, even in the G5, I'd say go get Memphis. Do a home and home in Memphis, or even a 2-for-1 with Memphis. I don't care.
Why not Houston?
Or Houston. They're right down the road, right?
Look,
so
I think go ahead. Jerry, you finish your thought and then I'll go.
Well, I think the main look, again, I don't mind a 2-for-1 if they're winnable. Number one, if they're winnable. I don't want to do some 3-for-1 with, like, you know, I don't know, Texas, right? Where it's a lot harder to win. I'd rather do it to where I know we can beat them at home, or even on the road. But it's just a matter of whether or not those schools would agree to it too, because it is a two-way street. They have to agree to it. But I've seen, like, to Carson's point, you know, Georgia State hosted North Carolina. Then you have Miami went to App State in 2016. I believe that was a 2-for-1. I think. You've seen a bunch of schools in the Sun Belt host P5s, but in return, they've gone back to their place. Mississippi State, South Alabama. Mississippi State went to Mobile. You know, if an SEC school can go to Mobile, to a football program that just started barely 10 years ago, I don't see why Lafayette can't get one either. Another example would be Old Dominion. Same thing with Virginia Tech twice. They've gone twice, and they beat them both times. So now, granted, that's a regional thing because it's close by. But look, there's a lot of schools in Texas. P5. Look, I'd say go talk to TCU. Why not?
Funny,
right?
You know what I like about what you just said, Jerry, is you said I wouldn't want to have a team that we couldn't beat, and you struggled to think of a team we couldn't beat. And
Right.
Texas ain't one of them. I hate to correct you on that. Maybe Alabama, we could talk about them. Maybe Ohio State. But let me tell you, there are a bunch of teams we could beat, and I think that's part of the problem. Texas don't want to come here because they know they could lose, and I think that's also part of the problem.
Baylor went to Monroe. Okay, like, you know what I mean?
But that's why the conversation is interesting, and I'm gonna make it short and sweet because I don't want to get too far off base. But I'm just gonna use an anecdotal story that we've watched play out over the last 2 years, and we, you know, Jerry's gonna know what I'm talking about. But we fancy ourselves App State. We fancy ourselves, you know, that's a peer institution. Sure, they're in our league, but if you want to look at them as a success story for 40 years, where there is no comparison, we're not App State, but our administration fancies us App State. So here's the thing about App State. Look at what that 2-for-1. I think it's a 3-for-1, Jerry. Actually, if I may be wrong on that, but I think it's a 3-for-1. Look at what they just saw when North Carolina visited the Rock. They packed it out. It was totally sold out. And look at the television product. You want to talk about a recruiting tool? The television product was incredible. I watched the entire game, every snap. I'm not an App State fan. I thought it was riveting. They should have won the freaking game. And it's terrible that it didn't go their way, but that was a hell of a college football game. And then App State just went on the road and beat Texas A&M at College Station. And we'll get into the Sun Belt thing. This is a nice transition, but look at what that does for their brand. Their brand is already strong, and they're still trying to build the brand. I think Brian has done great things, and he's done a great job in the majority of the decisions he's made. But he's wrong on the 2-for-1. Sorry. I know he has opportunity to see the financials. I don't, this is an untrained opinion and an uninformed opinion to a certain degree, but look at what it has done for them. App State is a national brand. They have 20,000 people in a freaking town. Their enrollment is less than ours. They are a small school. I mean, there's no reason why they should be this popular and this successful and have staying power. But it's because they've, like Jerry said, Miami went to the mountain, went to the Rock. UNC went to the Rock. They have history. They're going to get more teams to sign up. 2-for-1s are not bad.
But I'll just say this, Josh. When Dr. Magger got here, his plan made sense because we weren't ready. We weren't ready to go 2-for-1 because we were going to get our ass kicked 3 times. We're at the point where we're ready. Our program is there. We need to start exploring. You know what? If I have to play at your place twice, good. I'll kick your ass at home and I'll go over there twice and kick your ass there. I'm okay with that because we're at that point. Now, again, I'm not talking about Alabama, okay? I mean, Alabama would draw a big crowd, but we'd still probably we would most likely get beat 3 times. But if you're talking, like you said, Jerry, about a Texas Tech or a Baylor or a Missouri or, then let's talk about it because I'm feeling good about our odds with Missouri, a 2-for-1. I don't know about you guys, but I think it's worth it.
No, I love it.
You know who I'd go after? I know we did this years back. Like we got Minnesota to do. I think we did 2-for-1 with Minnesota. It was Ricky Bussel's first home game as a coach. Go after an Illinois. Go get Rutgers. Go get somebody from the Big Ten.
Call Brent Pry to play Virginia Tech.
Yeah. Go get Wake Forest. Monroe, ULM got Wake Forest to go to their place. I mean, it doesn't have to be a blue blood. I'll go play Baylor. I'll go play Indiana. I'll go play Northwestern. I mean, they're big names. People know who they are. You know what?
It reminds me of times where people say, how did you get such and such on the pod? And we always say, well, we asked them. We just asked them if they would do it, and they say yes. I understand the financials behind not doing a 3-for-1. I really do. But I also understand the national branding of beating a ranked Houston team in a sold-out Cajun field. I don't know if we've let ourselves think that way at the executive level. And I might be wrong. That's just an opinion. I'm just saying that I don't know if we've let ourselves dream that way yet. You got to get these people to say yes to you, and then you got to beat them when they come here.
Here's the thing.
There's a lot that goes into it, but you got to do it.
And not only do you get to beat them, but like when you go to their place twice, they still pay you a hefty amount of money.
Right.
I mean,
look at what Boise did. They built a brand off of beating good teams on the road, and then they finally started getting guys to come to Boise.
Well, just a few years ago, we talked about how App State hosted North Carolina. Well, part of the deal was App State goes to Chapel Hill first. They beat them in 2019, remember? I mean, so we've seen, we already know what App can do, and I know we're going to talk about it. I mean, you saw what they did today, but you play a team in the P5 that's beatable. Again, they're going to have, look, Illinois and Indiana, Northwestern, Oklahoma State, Baylor. Look, we know they have bigger budgets than us. We all know that. They have a lot bigger budgets than us. So guess what? They're going to pay us to go there twice. But during those 2 times, we have a chance to beat them. K-State, Kansas State was another one. I think we did a 2-for-1 with Kansas State when they came to town. Look at what we did. Tyler kicks the 49-yard field goal with a minute left. We win the game.
In the rain.
In the rain. So, yeah, man, there's so much opportunity. I think there is a lot more hanging fruit than people realize when it comes to, attracting a P5. Again, I don't mind a 2-for-1 if I know they're winnable. I really, like Nick said, yeah, if it's Alabama, it's one thing. But if you can get a 2-for-1 with an Oklahoma State, again, like we did before, or Baylor or Northwestern, I'm all for it because I know for a fact with the team we have now, we can go up to places like Evanston and win. And you get paid to do it. So, no, I don't mind the 2. As a fan, and look, I know Dr. Magger makes his decisions based, he's going to make his own decisions based on what he thinks is best for the athletic department. And I have no doubt he analyzes those things. I'm saying this as a fan. I'd love to play those 2-for-1 games. Why not? Why not?
I think it's important to let them know that we support that, because if we support it and enough of us support it, maybe his thinking will change. Maybe it won't.
I do.
But maybe
I don't
it will.
mind it. because
I think it's important. I think it's necessary. Not necessary. It's not that I don't mind it. I think it's necessary. We need to do that kind of stuff.
So let me play devil's advocate for a second, okay? And I know we get the revenue coming to Lafayette when we get the extra home game, but as far as a football team, just from a football standpoint, what's the benefit of bringing in Grambling or I'm not trying to pick on any school, but like a Northwestern State or a Stephen F. Austin compared to going on the road to say a Missouri and you win the game? What did you like? Who got the better end of the bargain, going on the road and beating a Missouri or hosting Northwestern State? Now I know the money and the revenue pours into Lafayette, but does it? I don't know.
How much?
So my thought is, again, I think we go back to the thinking however many years ago in 2014, 2015 is that's a guaranteed win. And we need to go 13-0 in a season to make a college football playoff. Or we need to go, we need to have this, we need to pad our record. We need to make it really look good if we want to get where we're going. Well, I think we're at the point again in our progression as a program to where we can schedule better teams than, like you said, a Grambling or a Southern, which I enjoy playing because there's pageantry involved with that. But you're also missing out on the opportunity to host a really good team. And I get it. There might be years where we where we have only 5 home games. I'll take that if we get to host a really big P5 team in our stadium. Me as a fan, I will take that. Some people may disagree, but again, the risk reward to me is better if we're saying, okay, well, FCS used to be an easy win for us. Can we do better? And I think we can. I think we're at the point in our program where we can. But again, you look at other P5 programs, they all have an FCS team on the schedule to pad their record as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of thought that has to go into that,
The only difference really is that they have an excellent conference schedule to lean on, and we don't. Well, that's not true. We do now, but we haven't in the past. So, I don't know. It'd be interesting to talk to Maggard about that, but I think that we really need to evaluate how we plan to go, and we've got to get our schedule to a point where the difficulty is the national attention has to make sense. Like if we were going to try to make a college football playoff, which we now have the route to do, we now have an opportunity to do, we got to play these teams that give us a schedule worth looking at.
Prime example. So the next couple of years, we go up to East Lansing to play Michigan State, and we go up to Minnesota. I wouldn't mind doing a 2-for-1 with a Michigan State. I mean, how cool would it be for Sparty to come to Lafayette, right?
I mean, it would be unbelievable.
That'd be really cool. And really, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think they're a good football team, but I think we can give them a game too. I think they're beatable.
But even so, why are we playing again? Why are we playing MAC teams? I mean, San Diego State, I would take them as a home and home, 100%, 1,000% of the time over playing. No offense to Eastern Michigan, but Eastern Michigan that has no ties or Akron or Ohio. Nobody in Lafayette cares, other than true football fans that appreciate the reasoning behind it. But there's no branding behind an Ohio or an Akron. They don't know who the Zips are, or even if Toledo comes down, they probably don't know who Toledo is. But if you get a San Diego State or a Nevada that we've played in a bowl game, or somebody identifiable, then I think we can have that conversation. Or even a Colorado State. I guarantee you, a 1-1 with Colorado State, we beat them twice. We beat them here and at home. So at least something that would get an identification to our fans as to who they are, because Eastern Michigan isn't getting anybody excited. I mean,
that's why I thought before COVID that Wyoming home and home was perfect for that. I mean, that was a perfect get because the first week you had McNeese, so everybody, this old rivalry, and you knew the Cajun field was going to be packed. But then the next week it would have been even better because now you're bringing one of your peers in the G5 and a Wyoming team that just graduated Josh Allen. So, I mean, yeah, no, I'm with you on that, Nick. I think I didn't really think about that, but I do think even a legitimate G5 school with a good reputation like that from maybe the Mountain West I think that'd be a great idea as well. I'd go for another Mountain West team, to be honest with you. Heck, bring Air Force here. Do a home and home at Air Force. Do a home and home at Fresno State. I'm all about it.
You'd be very surprised how similar Colorado State is. I lived in Fort Collins, Colorado. Colorado State is very similar to UL. Very similar. In fact, we probably have a stronger program right now. But look, before we get out of here, we've kept you guys for quite a while. We're gonna recap the league and kind of talk about the monumental day that the Sun Belt had. I mean, my God,
historic.
Look, North Carolina ended up beating Georgia State. I know I picked them to win the East. They played like they should win the East today. They played a good game. I thought they got hosed on several calls, but at the end of the day, they dropped too many passes. They made too many mistakes. But they had a very good opportunity to beat a very dynamic North Carolina football team, especially on offense. So Georgia State loses to North Carolina by 7, but they hosted North Carolina, going back to our conversation before. Southern Miss goes on the road to Miami, all right? They play well in the first half. It was a football game, and then Miami's talent just kind of took over in the second half. I still think Southern Miss is a threat in the West. I like them very much. I like Will Hall. I think they have a ton to offer the Sun Belt, and they're just on the way up. Arkansas State goes and plays Ohio State and gets pummeled. And there's not really much to say about that. Ohio State is on a completely other level than about 125 teams in this country. So they're a professional team. It's true. I mean, they're very, very good. South Alabama just absolutely dismantles the Chippewas, who Central Michigan was supposed to be pretty good this year, and South Alabama just handled them. They did. So we're going to play South Alabama next week. Be very interesting to see what we can bring to the table. But South Alabama opened some eyes today and showed why they've in some prognostications got picked to win the West or compete for the West. So good for them. Good for them. That's going to be an interesting game next week for the Cajuns.
No,
Marshall,
they play on October 1st. There's the next home game.
We play Rice.
The next home game. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah.
Who do we play next week, Jerry? I didn't even look at the
Rice.
schedule.
Then we go to Monroe.
Going to Houston. To Houston. All right, so the next game it's at Cajun Field will be.
That's correct. Yeah, so it's the next home game.
Gotcha.
Homecoming.
The real game that was, first of all, let's say the first game that sent shockwaves through really the college football landscape and the Sun Belt was Marshall going up and beating Notre Dame and really beating them, beat them handily. Because there was a couple of calls in that game that were very bad against Marshall, and we were all thinking, oh, God, here we go. The P5 cheat's coming. Dude, Marshall just beat them. And I mean beat them physically. They didn't get pretty. They didn't just throw the ball over the yard. They lined up and beat them. Played great defense, physical in the trenches. What a hell of a win to go to South Bend and win that game. Unbelievable.
You know what's great about that, Josh, is that the fans of the team across the basin will still be adamant that we can't possibly ever beat them in anything in football and SEC, bruh. And we beat that team.
That's right. That's right.
Last year, when they said that we had no chance, if y'all play us this year, we'd still kick your butts. Well, nah, bruh.
And they were without their best player.
Yep.
Ali didn't play. Obviously, he's out for the year. I mean, that is a monumental moment for the Sun Belt. And that happened somewhere around 3. And just about an hour later, App State goes on the road to College Station and beats the Aggies of Texas A&M, which, look, the Sun Belt has had some nice wins in its history. But you go to South Bend and you beat a top 10 team, that is otherworldly for this league. You follow it up with a win against Texas A&M, an SEC team, Jimbo Fisher making $10+ million a year. They're buying players left and right. This team beat Saban last year. App State, coming off of a brutal, heartbreaking loss, goes to Texas and beats Texas A&M. I mean, I don't even know what to. And again, they beat them. This wasn't like a fluke. They went up there, played great defense, and beat them.
2 top 10 teams today knocked off by Sun Belt schools. Think about that.
It's incredible. And look, you can go down the list. James Madison goes to Norfolk State, beats the hell out of them. I mean, look, it's an FCS opponent, but James Madison they just moved up to FBS. I mean,
they just keep winning.
they just keep, and not only do they win, they destroy people.
Yeah.
They're going to be a problem. East Carolina gets the best of Old Dominion. ODU played better in the second half, but ECU got off to a fast start, and ODU just really couldn't recover. But they're coming off of an emotional win, beating Virginia Tech last week. It's maybe to be expected. I didn't think their offense was very impressive in the win against Virginia Tech, so this is really not unexpected. But they went to an AAC school and they competed. You got to give them credit for that. Coastal Carolina narrowly escapes Gardner-Webb. We're all rooting hard for G-Dub.
If there again, we cheer, we pull for every conference team except Coastal, man.
Except Kobe Carolina.
I was praying they would lose. That would have humbled those a-holes to a nth degree. But
they need it. They need a dose of reality. So yeah, Kobe Carolina pulls it off, which is good for the league, but whatever. Of course, Louisiana ends up taking care of business in the second half. 49 points in the second half is still pretty eye-opening. Texas State goes and beats FIU, the hapless Coosa team. How bad is Coosa? Have they won a game this year? Coosa's bad, dude.
I don't know. Again, somebody puts all for one on suicide watch because that dude is probably about to jump off a cliff somewhere. Either that or he's still finding some alternate universe where they're still the best conference.
Still not convinced it's not Judy. Troy beats Alabama A&M in FCS school pretty handily, 38-17. Georgia Southern, to continue the carnage, beats a blue blood in Nebraska. Now look, Scott Frost is not setting the world on fire, and Nebraska hasn't been very good or even really relevant in a long time. That's still a great win. You look, rewind this whole thing 5 years, and you say that Georgia Southern goes on the road and beats Nebraska. I mean, that's a banner win for the league. Today, it's not even getting highlights.
Can I just say that jerkwad, what is it, Tim Brando, who blocked me on Twitter for no reason, by the way. So
Under the pod, Tim Brando.
I'm still pissed off about that. Goes and says, Frost is going to win a national championship in Nebraska. Yeah,
man.
Whatever. Tim Brando.
That's a tough scene. Somebody get freezing cold takes on this ASAP. And look, even the Monrovians came out and dominated their opponent. All right. Now they played Nichols, but they dominated the opponent. You got to give them credit.
We didn't dominate. Look, we didn't dominate them last year.
No, we didn't. I
mean,
now Lindsey Scott is a different story. So I don't know who's playing quarterback for Nichols. God bless him. It ain't him. That guy was a problem. I think that this is going to go down as the biggest, most important day in this league's history. Considering that they just expanded the playoff, considering that last year, remember that I think it was the first day of out of conference where we go beat Iowa State, Arkansas beats Kansas State, and somebody else won a P5 game in the league. These are going to be that day and today is really going to push the Sun Belt forward. I think that the AAC having to kind of circle the wagons, as Boomer would say. And things being so in disarray around the country with conference realignment or whatever, the Sun Belt has carried the torch for the regional rivalries and the matchups. The way that we play ball, I think, is really gonna have lasting power. But the fact that you go on the road and beat Blue Bloods, 3 of them, in the same day on national TV, this league is going to get so much more respect, and we're all going to benefit from it.
I'm glad Joel brought it up because I was gonna. College game day, where is it next week? App State. College game today is going to App State. So it's great for App State, and I think they're playing Troy, so it's great for Troy. It's great for the Sun Belt because guess what? Every single team is going to be talked about all morning long. So I might actually watch game day because I was kind of protesting, the whole Power 5 thing. But now that that just tells you what one day in college football can do for not only a program, for an entire conference. We're going to be on Spotlight next Saturday. How awesome is that?
Well, it
this
also
league just took a gigantic step forward.
It also shows the parity of talent across different conferences, especially the talent of the Sun Belt. In many ways, I remember, I think it was Dez that said at a quarterback club luncheon a few weeks ago, somebody had asked him, hey, look, going into the season, what do you think about these 4 teams coming in? And the first thing he said was, well, when I played, we were trying to get out the conference. Now people are trying to come in. And trying to call other people or other schools to get in. So we're in a conference now that like other schools want to be a part of, and not only do they want to be a part of it, but the conference has been successful over the last few years. I mean, not just today, but between us, App State, Georgia Southern, Troy, Coastal Carolina, all of those schools have either gotten votes or have been in the top 25 in the last 5 years. So when you have that level of success, and then of course, you can't forget teams like ULM pulling off upsets back in the day. When you do that more consistently and you're doing that on a regular basis, to me, with the new American Conference coming, I know the Mountain West kind of has its own spot, but they're kind of secluded out west. I don't know how you could say that, once the new playoff system's implemented, if we keep the success up, how we could be really left out.
Jerry, it's a great point. Imagine right now that the playoff system is in place. The Sun Belt just goes and gets 2 top 10 wins. All right. And let's just say that Cajuns run the table. We have wins over Marshall and App State, who have top 10 wins. There's no freaking way we don't get a great seed and a good opportunity to go win a national championship. We are now in a league where there is a path to win the national championship. I hope that's not lost on people. That's important. It's like this is opportunity that not just the Cajuns, but G5 schools across the country are now in. They're in.
Well, it kills the argument. Whenever I hear a fan of a P5 school go, well, if you played our schedule, you wouldn't be able to compete. Well,
if I had your budget, I would certainly compete.
If I had your budget, but also too, if I knew that I could be included in the things that you're playing for, like playoff berths, what do you think that does for my recruiting? I go to a kid's house, a player's house, and say, hey, guess what? Yes, you're not playing on national TV every single week, but you know what? You get a chance at a playoff spot. Cincinnati getting in last year as one of the top 4 was the greatest thing to help the G5 as far as the argument goes, because yes, did they win? No, but now if I'm somebody like if I'm Dez or coach at UL and I say, hey, look, you see what Cincinnati did? They're not a blue blood. They're not a P5, but guess what? They got into a playoff. And, we've shown in our conference, the strength of our conference, we win in the conference or maybe go undefeated and piggyback off the success we've had. We can be that Cincinnati in a couple of years and we can be in that conversation as well. And now that they're expanding the playoff, where now it's almost, I'm not going to say a shoe-in, but now that a G5 conference has a chance to actually get in.
No, it is a shoe. The highest rated G5 will be a guaranteed playoff spot. It is a shoe.
Yeah, again, going back to what one day can do in college football, DraftKings tweeted out, you might not like it, Sun Belt is a Power 5 conference now. 3 games, one day changes the momentum and the whole philosophy of this whole Power 5 crap that they have out there.
It's true.
Tweeted.
And I know we're in Ragin Review after dark at this point, so I can make this comment. Everybody's kind of petered out. I'm in the pisser, right? I'm getting a drink, go to pee or whatever, and guys are talking about the Sun Belt, talking about the other Sun Belt League games.
Yeah,
that never happened, Jerry. That never happened.
Here. I mean, look, I was in my seat before the pregame, and we were all trying to hope the internet was working because we were trying to get score updates for the App State game, and everybody's talking about what's App State doing? Do you guys have the score? And then when we found out they won, everybody was whispering, "Oh my gosh, you saw App State won? That's 2 teams. First of all, Marshall did it. Now App State did it." And it's amazing how much this conference has evolved. But what's more amazing is now, like you had said, we're in that conversation with the bigger conferences. And, I know how the American likes to talk about being the P6. I think we've pretty much we're about to steal that title pretty soon as a P6. I tweeted that out today, by the way, the Sun Belt, the new P6. I mean, look, once those 3 schools leave to go to the Big 12 and the American brings in those market programs, we have the quality. We're the ones with the quality teams in spite of the market. I mean, look, Marshall's in Huntington, App State's in Boone. Both teams knocked off top 10 Blue Bloods today. Okay.
What these money people forgot was that college football wasn't built on the back of big markets. College football was built in college football towns.
Where's Notre Dame? Is South Bend a metropolis? No, it's not.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. Banner day for the Sun Belt. Great day for the Cajuns. Learning a lot about our football team. If you're new, please subscribe, rate, review. Other than that, for Nick and Jerry, we'll see you next week. 2-0, 15 in a row. Desermo 3-0 as a head coach. You guys showed out today. Good job.